When President Trump announced his plans to move the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem,
it is time to officially recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel.
He reversed decades of consensus about the status of Jerusalem. The announcement sparked massive protests among Palestinians and throughout the Muslim world. Here are 5 things to know about Jerusalem and why it's so contentious. Number 1. Both Israelis and Palestinians consider Jerusalem their capital. Israel has controlled West Jerusalem since 1949. During the Six-Day War, Israel captured East Jerusalem and annexed that half of the city. But the international community considers East Jerusalem occupied territory. In 1980, after Israel passed a law declaring a united Jerusalem their capital, the United Nations condemned the annexation. Palestinians want to divide the city and make East Jerusalem the capital of a future Palestinian state, while Israelis want a unified Jerusalem to be their capital. Number 2. Jerusalem is central to the peace process. During peace process negotiations for the Oslo Accords, the issue of Jerusalem was initially set aside to avoid derailing the talks. In 2000, during a new round of negotiations, talks were upended when the leaders of Palestine and Israel disputed who would control the maze of tunnels under Jerusalem. Number 3. Violence is not new in the Holy City. Control of Jerusalem has been a trigger for violence many times in the past. The contested area of East Jerusalem is home to some of the holiest sites in the world for Jews and Muslims. It is the site where Judaism's 2 sacred temples once stood, and the site where the Prophet Muhammad ascended to heaven. The trouble is that the sites for Muslims and Jews exist on the same land. There's a precarious power share in place. Israeli officials control who has access to the complex, but Muslims have religious control inside. Jews can enter, but aren't allowed to pray. Instead, they use the Western Wall. The Second Intifada began in 2000, when then opposition leader Ariel Sharon visited the Temple Mount to assert Israel's right to the complex. Palestinians protested and were met with tear gas and rubber bullets. The violence lasted 5 years and killed over 3,000 Palestinians and nearly 1,000 Israelis, with thousands more wounded. More recently, Israel set up metal detectors to enter the complex, which Palestinians say restricted access to the holy site, sparking a new round of protests and violence. Number 4. No countries have embassies in Jerusalem. In the early 70s, 16 countries had embassies, including the Netherlands, Costa Rica, Colombia. But after the UN Security Council condemned the annexation of East Jerusalem in 1980, member states left. Now, Jerusalem only has consulates. The U.S. would be the first country to have an embassy back in the city. Number 5. The U.S. has avoided the embassy move for decades. Though Congress passed a law to relocate the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem more than 20 years ago, the law includes a loophole that allows the president to delay the relocation for the sake of national security. Every sitting president, Clinton, Bush, Obama, has used this power and signed the waiver every 6 months. President Trump signed the waiver in June 2017 and again in December 2017, but also signaled he would begin the process of moving the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. President Trump was careful not to call Jerusalem the undivided capital of Israel, but opposition to Trump's declarations and the proposed embassy move grows. Muslim countries worldwide urge the recognition of East Jerusalem as the capital of a future Palestinian state. In Jerusalem, tensions are higher than usual. Palestinian militant group Hamas has started launching rockets into Israel from Gaza and calling for a third intifada. Israel has arrested Palestinians and is clamping down on protests. And as lines are drawn and the fight for Jerusalem intensifies, the future of Israeli-Palestinian stability is once again at risk.